Hello there, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm Dr. Russell Sharp, and today's episode is a joint podcast where it will be on Hydroponics Daily and also Serial Killers, the podcast all about the pests, diseases, and weeds of arable crops. So whether you're into soilless cultivation or you're growing crops in your field, this episode should be of interest to you. It's a podcast all about chelation of micronutrients. And this is a very important subject. It's a subject that there's a lot of misinformation about, and there's a lot of dodgy products out there, both in what they claim to do and also their environmental sustainability. And also there's some interesting news out of the Utreema Lab today, which I am super excited about, which I want to share with you. Hence the reason I've jumped on a podcast rather than set about creating a slick marketing campaign to tell everyone about it. So first of all, let's talk about what chelation is. Chelation was discovered in about the 1920s, I believe. And chelation is Greek for claw. And it's a way of nutrients being held in solution by other molecules in special bonds called coordination bonds, and a number of these around a central metal, normally atom. Okay, so that's what chelation is. So the holding of nutrients in solution, as opposed to just a normal salt going into solution. So take iron as a classic example. Iron sulfate would normally dissolve, and the iron and the sulfate molecules would float around as they are. And then take iron EDTA, for example, the EDTA molecule binds the iron at numerous points, holding it in solution. So the most frequently chelated nutrients are iron, manganese, zinc, copper. They are 4 micronutrients. And then calcium is sometimes chelated out of the macronutrients. Magnesium rarely, because it is fairly soluble across all ranges. Iron is by far the most sensitive to pH and oxidation, making iron chelates essential in most systems where you're using iron. The arable farmers on the Serial Killers podcast will say, well, we don't care about iron because we've got plenty of iron around. But just bear in mind that iron is probably the most commonly chelated in fertilizer because it goes on sports turf and lawns as well. So loads of chelated iron. And that's the reason they do that, is that it's better solubility when mixed with other things. And also it lasts longer in the soil. It stays soluble for much longer because it's resistant to falling out, precipitating out in things like iron, phosphate and things like this. So widely used. And most chelations occur with, the most common one is EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. Easy for me to say, EDTA. And there are a number of different variants of EDTA. There's DTPA, EDDHA, and HEEDTA. And they work at different pH ranges, and they work better on certain nutrients. So EDTA is great for iron, zinc, manganese, and copper, especially lower pH ranges. So where sports turf, for example, that's a lower pH range, it tends to grow a lot lower pH. DTPA, that works around 7. That's used for iron and slightly alkaline systems. So used a lot in aquatic systems, aquariums and things like this. For EDDHA, that is used at pH 9. So used for iron in really hard water or high pH systems. And then HEEDTA, if you haven't lost you already, used for niche formulations. Now, there are other chelates that are used, especially in arable crops. You will find mixtures of just sulfates with citric acid, and then they've said, chelated with organic acid, because they've added a bit of citric acid to bring the pH down to get the nutrients into solution. That's not proper chelation. To get proper chelation with citric acid, you need to form something like ferric ammonium citrate, not just ferric citrate. So be very aware, there's a couple of companies out there just selling. If you look on the safety data sheet, you'll see a list of all the sulfates and then a bit of citric acid, and then they're claiming chelation. That's nonsense as far as I'm concerned. And the arable farmers, unless you want to be sold a pig in a poke, always look out for that. And then You'll also find, what else will you find? You might find amino acid based chelates, especially in arable farmers. But again, they chelate at a very low concentration. So all the nutrients will be at very low concentrations because amino acids can't get the nutrient content you can get with things like EDTA, but also things like ammonium citrate. So I used to work for a company that made lots and lots of iron ammonium citrate. So I know about that one. It's a good alternative to EDTA because there are disadvantages, which I'm going to go on to. So as I say, non-chelated salts like ferrous sulfate, copper sulfate, they can precipitate out of solution as the pH rises or when reacting with phosphates. And so that's something you have to look out for. And they stay dissolved and plant available even in tricky environments. So they're really good for foliar application, and they can extend the nutrients usable life, especially in recirculatory systems in hydroponics. So you've got to make sure you choose the right one, though. Check your system. Now, onto the drawbacks. So we said there's a lot of sulfate plus citric acid, nonsense products out there on the market. They're expensive, so arable farmers won't tend to use EDTA products very often or similar products because they're not cost effective compared to the sulfates. So when we've priced up chelates, we often miss out on a lot of arable crops if we have to use EDTA. There's an over application risk because you keep the nutrient solutions for longer. There could be toxic buildup. But the main one is environmental persistence. Some chelates, like EDTA, don't break down easily in the environment, and so they're classed as non-biodegradable. And also, there's a question mark over whether they actually release the nutrient to the plant when the plant wants them. Do they hold on to them too hard? And can they, once they release their nutrient, absorb a heavy metal out of the soil and give it to the plant or to you, human who's eating food that contains EDTA? And then they could complex a metal unintentionally, a heavy metal. So there are disadvantages. And then the one that we're excited about today at Utreema is that we've created a alternative to the synthetic EDTA chelates for boron. So boron is usually ethynylamine, is like a precursor to EDTA, and it's used to chelate boron for cauliflowers, brassicas, oilseed rape, things like this. And so it's a synthetic, non-biodegradable chelate. It's used in all of the boron products that are chelated. All the liquid boron products on the market is this boron ethynylamine product. And we've got an alternative that uses natural source of chelation, and it's a really high concentration as well, and it's biodegradable. But the beauty of it is that it's optimized around pH 6.5, whereas all these other liquid products, they've got a pH well above 8, which means that it's not optimal for plant growth, and also it's non-systemic. And the problem with boron is, the reason you get boron deficiency is because it doesn't move in the phloem. It only moves in the xylem normally, whereas we've created a natural mimic to the way boron moves around in rose plants, and rose plants don't get boron deficiency in their young growth because they can use this special natural chelation. So we've mimicked that, and our product will be systemic in the xylem and the phloem, which is fantastic. So really excited to launch this product. If I've ever talked to you about boron in the past, get in contact with us now, because this is something that's going to be massive for Utreema, and we'll be including it in a lot of our products. So it's higher solubility than boron, borax, natural chelation. It's different to the market because everything else is just boron ethynylamine. We're looking to see whether it can be organically certified, and it's unique to Utreema and pH optimized. So we're really excited about that. Boron is a nutrient that is often overlooked, but is essential for really good yield, especially in brassicas. So yeah, be careful. So be on the lookout for that. If anyone wants to trial it, let me know, because we'll be making loads of trial samples soon, and we want to test it on brassicas. So if you're growing brassicas, let me know. What else can we say? Be careful in your tank mixing, even with chelates, because they can fall out of solution. EDTA is classed as being stable at low pHs, but it's not when you get down below pH 4, I think it crashes out, and it really will block everything up. It will turn the whole liquid into gunk. I have done it on more than one occasion, so I know that is the case. So yeah, look at chelation. If you're struggling with micronutrients and you're constantly getting micronutrient deficiencies in your crop, it doesn't have to be EDTA. There are natural alternatives that can chelate your micronutrients. Utreema are experts at this. Basically, 90% of our portfolio that is unique is all about getting stuff that shouldn't be into solution into solution. So whether that is whether that's phosphorus liberator, it's getting phosphorus into solution, whether it's gold leaf or liquid gold, as it's called in the UK, keeping calcium and phosphorus and iron from interacting negatively in a bottle. What if I said salicylic acid, tricontinol, getting tricontinol into solution. Loads of our portfolio is basically getting stuff into solution that shouldn't otherwise be possible. Ferric phosphate for our slugger product. Ferric phosphate's normally not soluble. When you tell fertilizer companies that we've got a ferric phosphate liquid, they're like, what? Because they know it should be impossible. So that's what we do at Utreema. We've got novel technology, novel chemistry that we don't talk about. We don't patent it because it's all know-how. So if you're interested in looking at more natural chelation, then get in touch with us or just check out the Utreema portfolio, because a lot of the technology is already commercialized. It's just this boron one that's not. So be really interested to talk to anyone who's interested in natural chelation. Get in touch. If you have been shared this podcast because you're into chelation, then you owe the person who shared it with you a nice cold drink. And also, if you could share this podcast by just taking a screenshot of your podcast provider and then post it on social media and say, this podcast episode was amazing, you got to check it out, that would mean the world to me. So whether you're listening on Serial Killers or Hydroponics Daily, that would mean a lot. We also have a third podcast that I'm going to start doing called Grass Me Up, which is all about lawns and sports turf. However, this podcast episode is not as relevant because, yes, iron EDTA is a big, and iron citrate and iron ammonium citrate, they're big. All the other micronutrients, especially boron's not used so much in sports turf and lawn care. So I didn't want to do that one as well. So thank you very much for listening. I'm just waffling now. Until tomorrow, if it's Hydroponics Daily, goodbye. And if it's Serial Killers, it's once in a blue moon, I'm afraid, until we get Josie back. She is available, so we should be doing some more podcasts soon. Just once the diggers go away from outside our office and we can record in peace. That's when we'll be doing the next episode. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, goodbye.